Welcome to Church of the Covenant's second online worship service. Of course, I'm Dan Harrison.
I'm Ruth.
And this is Charlie. Hi, say hi, Charlie.
Say hi, Charlie.
He's the newest member of our family, and we're super happy to have him. He's certainly given us a run, literally, all over the place, and we've enjoyed it, though, haven't we?
Yes.
We enjoyed Charlie. Anyway, please enjoy the next few minutes together as we worship and we journey together. We do music, some quiet meditation, and then we have special guests. So please enjoy the time, and we're just so happy you're here.
Take care.
Hi, Dolly.
Hello, Dan.
Well, it's good to
It's
good to see you.
good to see you all.
How's everything at the house?
Everything's going well. We're hanging in.
Good. Share with us what you're going to share.
All right, I have a poem from the book that our Sunday morning book group is reading. It just finished, actually, last Sunday. The book is Annam Cara by John O'Donohue. The title of the poem is Presence, Presents, by Scottish poet Norman MacCaig. I give you an emptiness, I give you a plenitude. Unwrap them carefully, one's as fragile as the other. And when you thank me, I'll pretend not to notice the doubt in your voice when you say they're just what you wanted. Put them on the table by your bed. When you wake in the morning, they'll have gone through the door of sleep into your head. Wherever you go, they'll go with you. And wherever you are, you'll wonder, smiling about the fullness you can't add to and the emptiness that you can fill.
And so we know and believe the love that God has for us. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in them. This is how love is made complete among us. In this world, we are like Jesus. There is no fear in love.
In the midst of being isolated from one another, Ruth and I want to share this song. It's called Trust in Love. I just finished writing it right before we're playing it, so here we go. Please sing along with us and find the tune. And I might vary, but ignore me and do whatever that main tune is. You do your tune, and let's worship together. There's a fear in our land. In the dark you extend your hand. There's a river that flows from God's temple to our souls. There's a mountain that'll rise and make refuge for our lives. There's a tree that'll grow and we'll climb it when we feel low. There's an eagle that flies, on it we'll soar when we die. There's a hope filling us, all we need is to trust. Trust in love, trust in love. Trust in love, trust in love. There's a fear in our land. In the dark you extend your hand. There's a river that flows from God's temple to our souls. There's a mountain that'll rise and make refuge for our lives. There's a tree that will grow and we'll climb it when we feel low. There's an eagle that flies and on it we'll soar when we die. There's a hope filling us, all we need is to trust. Trust in love, trust in love. Trust in love, trust in love. There's a fear in our land. In the dark you extend your hand. There's a river that flows from God's temple to our souls. There's a mountain that'll rise and make refuge for our lives. There's a tree that will grow and we'll climb it when we feel low. There's an eagle that flies, on it we'll soar when we die. There's a hope filling us, all we need is to trust. Love, trust in love. Trust in love, trust in love. Trust in love, trust in love. Trust in love, trust in love. In the world that steals our harmony, there is precious little community. It's time to take it into our hands. Trust and love instead of There's a fear in our land. In the dark you extend your hand. There's a river that flows from God's temple to our souls. There's a mountain that'll rise and make refuge for our lives. There's a tree that will grow and we'll climb it when we feel low. There's an eagle that flies, on it we'll soar when we die. There's a hope filling us, all we need is to trust. Trust in life.
forgive us our debts as we forgive all who lead us not into
parts of the American healthcare system are already overwhelmed. According to Johns Hopkins University, there are now more than 83,000 confirmed cases in the U.S. That is the most in the world.
Well, it's great to have you here. What a privilege. And what strange times. You were just here in Lynchburg, and you were lecturing in my own class at the University of Lynchburg, where I teach as well. And you were sharing, you're kind of diving into already some of the fear issues that we have in society, things that you're well aware of. And just to recap for my community and anybody watching, that Laryicia Hawkins is well known for doing something that many of us would find terrifying, and that's standing in solidarity with another people group that maybe basically isn't your people group, but you take on their voice, you help amplify who they are, and you express it by standing with them. And that's what Laryicia did in 2015. If everyone here doesn't know, she as a Christian professor of color at Wheaton College, female. I mean, all those things she already identified in her life, and then when she donned the hijab, or the headscarf, with Muslim women around the world during the season of Advent, which of course is a season that we celebrate the coming of peace and coming of love and compassion and all of those things that we believe Jesus embodies. Laryicia did that in the donning of the hijab and standing in solidarity with Muslim women, which ended up in the end being controversial. I know for some of us it's strange to think of that as a controversy, but it was for her college, and of course for other Christians around the country. And it's odd for me to think that was something that would eventually leave her separating employment with Wheaton College, but that's what happened. Laryicia, you have lived through it, and you have lived through just donning a hijab as a Christian. You've lived through some of the craziest times, I'm sure, in your life, where it costs you everything just to stand side by side with people. And the mantra, or the phrase that's used over and over, is "same God," and that was controversial. Now, I'm not wanting you to relitigate all those things for us, but I am interested in how you, as a person who has made a choice to stand with others, are seeing the coronavirus and all of us finding ourselves in isolation, where we're afraid, we're scared, we're confused, and religious people all around the world are crying out to God for help. And now we're coming to you, the person who stood up for same God, and maybe you could give us a little bit of what we can do as a community. So if you could share with us a little bit, that would be great.
Yeah. I think one of the important facets of what some people have called activism, my activism in solidarity with Muslim women, which I called embodied solidarity. One of the most important facets is that the ways that I, as a professor of politics and religion and race, think about my own professional commitment, my own personal Christian spiritual motivation, is that it always has to be embodied. I think as someone who is prone to intellectualism and being in my head, I came naturally by disassociating myself from my body. The material being vessel that I inhabit. And it was really in graduate school and when I became a professor that I started thinking a lot about, well, what does it mean to be embodied? I'm not just a head. I'm not someone who runs in the morning for work, goes to work and uses this, noggin up here, reacts in my heart at lunch when I hear what my students are struggling with over lunch, goes home exhausted, disconnects watching Star Trek: The Next Generation, and gets up and does it all over again, right? And so I thought, I have to be an embodied, vulnerable human to my students, and that's what I want to model in both my teaching and in my relationships. And so that also has to be integrated in my pedagogy, what we call how we teach. So embodied solidarity goes back to my teaching, averring that Christians and Muslims and Jews worship the same God. It seemed like a no-brainer to me, but it was controversial and caused people to draw lines in the sand. And all I was trying to say is, whoever we are, wherever we come from, whether we have a spiritual background or not, we're on this planet together. The universe is one. If there is a God, there's only one. And what does that mean? And what it means, according to, the Jesus of the Sermon on the Mount and the prophets that preceded that Jesus, is that we speak truth to power in an embodied way that may involve some level of risk. The risk varies. The ultimate risk is death. The risk could be social alienation. It could be economic alienation. It could be physical, kind of geographic alienation. But we do these things have to be motivated by something inside of you, right? And so as I think about the moment that we're in, I think what this moment proves is what's deep inside of you and what comes out in those moments of crisis and trial when your job is on the line because of something you did. If you didn't believe it to begin with, that's going to be proven in the moment during the fire, right? So I'll start off with a broad statement. I don't think the coronavirus crisis is going to change many people. I think it's going to prove who people are. It's going to prove what's deep within. It's not going to solve our political problems. There's not going to all of a sudden be some kind of bipartisan moment and all of our political crises and issues are going to be in a moment solved. Keep paying attention because all the stuff below the surface is continuing, right? All the fights below. People are just kind of trying to sneak stuff through that they want, each side. I think that this is just going to prove more of who we are within. And so as I think about the moment that we're in, yes, there's more time for self-examination, and there's also more time for people to do more of what they were already doing, avoiding the vulnerable.
New York's hospitals are already past the breaking point.
9/11 was nothing compared to this. They just keep coming. And they're all ages. Don't delude yourself into thinking only the old will die.
Doctors and nurses overcome by the sheer number of coronavirus patients as the epidemic ravages America's largest city.
Shane, welcome.
Yeah, man, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
And Shane, you guys are up in Pennsylvania. I think you're on lockdown too, right?
I think it's not really as strict here. I think we're supposed to stay inside, but we have a lot going on in our neighborhood, so we're still sharing food with a lot of folks. We're going to be having a gardening day. We got a lot going on, but we're trying to be both use precaution and courage. To have courage and precaution, I think, is how we've been saying it.
No, that's encouraging to hear that you found a way to still maintain community despite what's happening. And I think a lot of us are dealing with a bit of anxiety. A lot of us are having to search deep within and try to figure out what those most important things are that we require as spiritual human beings that long for connection with God and with each other. And so someone like yourself, Shane, who has spent your life, being a great, I think, voice for many of us to listen to and understand wisdom of what it means to walk like Jesus and to live like Jesus in community. What are some of your thoughts around how we could approach our own fears and what we could be doing during this coronavirus pandemic?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think that we need to cling to that wonderful scripture that perfect love casteth out fear. And I'm convinced that fear and love are enemies. We sometimes think that the opposite of love is hate, but I'm kind of wondering if the opposite of love isn't fear sometimes, and because they feel like sort of opposing magnets that, fear casts out love and love casts out fear. And we see that, all over our country manifesting itself in different ways. And I think COVID-19 coronavirus is just the latest kind of test of that for us. And so we can see throughout history, and I think in a lot of the current policies here in the US, what a country looks like when it's really held captive to fear, and where fear rather than love is the kind of compelling force behind so many of our policies, and from how we think about guns to how we think about the military. We have the most massive, weaponry in the world. And so you look at Jesus in contrast to that. And I think that, we wrote this book called Beating Guns, challenging, the way that we think about guns and the idolatry, I think, of our weaponry. And but you look at the cross and the gun or the bomb, and they give you very different versions of what power looks like. And one says that, we are willing to kill, and the other says we are willing to die, and that love even extends to our enemies.
The frustrating thing about all of this is it really just feels like it's too little too late. Like we knew it was coming.
At other hospitals, nurses wear garbage bags as gowns as supplies of protective equipment run low.
All in our homes, but we're also, I think, dealing with fear and being afraid. And so, Jai, please, if you can, speak and share a little bit about some of the things that you're working through as you're thinking through this.
Yeah, well, thank you, first of all, for that beautiful introduction. I try my best. The fear is a real thing, and I'm in one of the vulnerable groups. Almost 70, and I've had asthma and lung problems my whole life. And so all of the things that people are feeling, believe me, I'm feeling them too. My inner landscape changes moment to moment, from being very contented at home with my family, just close and sitting watching TV and feeling really sweet and good vibes, and then like the next moment I start sweating in the terror of what feels like this impending plague, not even impending, and I start feeling, there's days that in normal life I don't go outside. I like it inside, but knowing that I can't go outside, there's moments that I start freaking out. So I am no more adept at this challenge than anyone else. I just want to say that. But because we have to try to have different perspectives. Not because we want to, but we're, it's a no-brainer. We're being forced to challenge ourselves and to find some deeper rooms within his castle in our hearts. So as we were mentioning before you pressed record, one of them, it seems very clear to me, it doesn't necessarily put me more at ease in my own troubled waters, but it seems clear that this phenomena, the coronavirus, is the great mother, the Mother Earth, she cleansing, and maybe just for her own personal pleasure, having a break, taking a break. The air is so clean. There's hardly any cars on the road. The factories are shut down, and for this brief time on the whole planet, there's a great clearing of pollution, and that's something amazing that we humans would not have done on our own. I consider myself very conscious of recycling, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But for my work, I go on airplanes. Airplanes are one of the worst pollutants around. And it's kind of wonderful to think of Mother Earth creating this cleanse, for lack of a better word. but then on the other hand, people who have been researching and studying climate change for years and years and years have predicted that new viruses would come and be very, very difficult. So the other thing, or one other thing that I've been really trying to find in myself, but also share with other people, is that since we're distanced from each other physically, it's a time to reach out way, way more even than normally with our hearts and our souls to connect with other people, whether that's a phone call. I need to be doing more of my phone calling, because there's some friends that are quite alone, and I have to connect with them. But it's also for just with things that what you and I are doing right now, baring our souls and sharing our hearts with others.
With Corona, that's the coronavirus that's kind of put us into we've hunkered down. We've gone into our own homes and hovels and crevices in the earth, and we're trying to protect ourselves from the virus. And we're afraid. There's so many of us, I think, that are so afraid right now, and we're looking. I mean, a lot of us are in an introspective state that we haven't been in a long time. I think people around the world are experiencing something very unique that has never happened before, because we've never had this level of communication and community, given even how divisive everything is within us. There's schisms everywhere, but how can we look at fear and how can we find solace in the pain, and that's why I'm kind of looking at you and then I'm hoping you would shift to share a little bit of that music, the things that you are so good about doing and bringing us through that introspective state. So to you, my brother.
Yeah, for me it's a very interesting time. I feel like life brings us these, challenges or obstacles in order to transcend. And as you say, it's a very introspective time. We're not going out, we're not like doing so many things. So it's really like, where else are we going to go other than within? And I feel that it, for myself, I'm using it as a beautiful opportunity. Right now, I was supposed to be in Portugal with my guru, my teacher Muji, and my daughter, who just turned 4 years old. She lives there with her mum. So I was also meant to be there right now, and I had to surrender to not being there. I've just spent a few months in California and was very much looking forward to coming home and then going back to Portugal and being there. And I kind of caught myself in this place of like, this kind of inner no, this inner resistance towards this situation. And what I've learned from that is actually whenever we resist life, we are doing a disservice to ourselves. We can overcome these things, and the best thing that we can do in this time for ourselves and others is to really look inside of our own heart and to spend this time in introspection, in reflection, meditation, contemplation, and to be grateful, also to practice gratitude, grateful for those that we have in our lives that inspire us, that we love, and grateful for this time also because it means that we can be introspective. Maybe usually we're working, we're doing different things, we have so many things, so many obligations, and maybe this is a time for us to just stop. And as we stop, maybe things will be revealed to us that otherwise would not have been. So yeah.
Oh, that is beautiful, Sam. Thank you. Sam, would you grace us with a gift of music, just a little bit, if you're able?
Yeah, I would love that. I would love that so much. I have my guitar right here. I would love to play a song. It's a new song, a relatively new song. It's a song called Nearer Than Near. And yeah, I think you will enjoy it. It goes like this.
yeah, hey, yeah. Open up your eyes and raise your hands. Today it is the day to dance your dance. Oh, eternity's a certainty. Your labels and your dreams won't stand a chance. So if your heart is here and your eyes are wide, then come and step inside this holy fire. For you're beyond this world, the far and wide, the up and down, the mask, the seek and hide. So don't hold on, don't let go now, my darling, have no fear. And get your grow on, what we're looking for is nearer than near. Nearer than near. Oh, it's nearer than near. Oh, nearer than near. Hey, fill your heart up with this medicine. The doctor lives inside the patient's pain. Oh, there's more than Sunday's reverend. It's worth just standing naked in the rain. Well, I would say it's the gift of giving presents underneath the tree where all life comes to be. If only we could see the apple seed, the one they put inside Adam and Eve. Oh, mama, please. So don't hold on, don't let go now, my darling, have no fear. And get your grow on, what we're looking for is nearer than near. Oh, my dear. Oh, nearer than near. Oh, it's nearer than near. Oh, nearer than. Hey, hey, oh, my darling, won't you sing a song of love? Oh, my darling, won't you sing? Jayela. Oh, my darling, won't you sing a song of love, love? Oh, my darling, won't you sing? We're standing stronger than the mountains, rooting deeper than the trees. More than all the motion, sailing off into the breeze. If truth is what we're seeking, and if truth is what we need, then let our eyes be open to receive the love we be. Walking through the valley of the shadow of belief, let us, oh good children, be the change we wish to see. Hallelujah to the fire, bringing forth the ancient seeds. It's more than we imagine and beyond what we can see. Oh, it's nearer than near. Oh, it's nearer than near. Oh, it's nearer than near. Hey, yeah. It's nearer than near. Hey, yeah. It's nearer than near. Hey, yeah. Nearer than near. Hey, yeah. Nearer than near. fight this holy fire. You're beyond this world, the far and wide, the up and down, the mass, the seek and hide. So don't hold on, no let go now, my darling, have no fear. And get your grow on, what we're looking for is nearer than medicine, the doctor lives inside the patient's pain. Oh, there's more than Sundays, Reverend, it's worth just standing naked in the rain. Some would say, if only we could see the apple seed, the one they put inside Adam and Eve. Is this the gift of giving? Presence underneath the tree where all life comes to be. Well, I am, so don't hold on or let go now, my darling, have no fear. And get your grow on, what we're looking for is nearer than near. Oh, my dear. Standing stronger than the mountains, rooting deeper than the trees. More than old emotions, sailing off into the breeze. If truth is what we're seeking, and if truth is what we need, then let our eyes be open to receive the love we be. Walking through the shadows of the valley of belief, well, let us all good children be the change we wish to see. Hallelujah to the fire, bringing forth the ancient seeds. More than we imagine and beyond what we conceive. Oh.